All right. What's good, people? Hope everybody's well. Shout out to the group. Yeah, it's been a little minute. I'm glad to be back up in here and glad to see the brothers are still hanging. Let's see here. A few brothers already in the house, already at over 90 people watching across Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. And shout out to Interlight Radio, Black owned online, here supporting the brother. So shout out to the Interlight Radio family. Hope everybody's well. Got some of the brothers coming through early. What's good, Frank? Shout out to Layman's Journal. And, Layman's Journal is dropping it early. Says, personally, I'm tired of being used as a pawn in the game that we black men are not allowed to win. And them lecturing us for refusing to go along. Yeah, we're going to get into it. Shout out to Layman's Journal. Make sure you support the Layman's Journal channel. Doing some excellent work over there. So make sure you subscribe and go check out his Patreon as well. It'll blow your mind. He's doing some excellent work, media analysis that is more than necessary. Shout out to Mark. What's good with you, man? Always drops an affirming word every time I see him. And usually says this verbatim. Thank you, Dr. T, for affirming the humanity of black boys and men. Much appreciated for that. Good brother Malika in the house. What's good with you, man? Inspired Truth. What's happening? Member for 7 months. Says glad to see Dr. T back behind the mic. Yeah, appreciate that, man. Trying to get it in, Jeff, what's up? Indigo Flow in the house. What's happening? AB Media. What's good, AB? Y'all make sure you support the AB Media channel. Go check him out. Barry Little, what's going on? Shout out, by the way, to Barry Little, man. He is dropping it in the comment section, all the information he can about my work, my channels, my blogs, and I'm incredibly appreciative to the good brother for doing that. So thank you. Even drops $10 in the pot. It says the real Black Masculinist Turn is just getting started. Hashtag Black Men Hold the Line. Hashtag BMI. Hashtag BMA. Hashtag Tangibles. That's what's up. Shout out to the Mad Professor. He's actually broadcasting now. I didn't know he would be, but shout out to the brother. Hope he's well. And Green Gorilla, wherever he is out there, shout out to that brother. Shout out to BGS. Shout out to the whole crew. Let's see. Magnificent. What's going on? We got K Ghost in the house. What's up? Right. Ahmed, what's happening? F Holiday. Simeon, what's up? 414 Money. John Smith, what's up? Ron, what's going on? Aquateki, what's good? Corey, what's happening? Andre. Yeah, man. Brothers in the house. Amari, staying African. What's up? What's going on with y'all? Jason, Red Pill Sleep Yourself. What's up? Cynical Optimist, what's going on? Money Mike. Inspired Truth, back in again. Golden Child, what's up? Dead Set in the house, man. What's up, Dead Set? DJ B-Side, what's going on? Sibaway, what's up? Andre, Code Father X, Chaos Rain, what's good, Chaos? Let's see. Aquateki in the house. J Will, Nub Glory. We got D. Shout out to BGS Idmore. What's good with you, man? Good to see you in here. Hope you're well. Especially after last night, man. I needed a nap after that. I don't know how you deal with that, man. That's a lot. What's good, Marcus? Marvin, what's up? Jay. Like, share, subscribe, join, do all of that good stuff. Support the channel if you will. We can continue to bring you this independent black male thought. Let me go ahead and get this stuff up there we need to get so you know that you can support the channel a variety of different ways. We got Patreon, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, and of course, the Super Chat. So again, support the channel so we can continue to bring you this independent black male thought, because we at the Onyx Report, where we as black male justice advocates uplift black men and boys using critical analysis, always can use some support to continue the journey. What's up, Dusty PhD? Mad Zulu, what's up? Got Douglas in the house. Pedantic Foot. All right, Vincent. Yeah, so we're getting it in. So a lot happening. A lot going on. We all know it. So I'm gonna get a few things, a few housekeeping things off the table as early as possible, so we can just get it going. So let me get some of this up here. Right. So you know the deal. See it here. You want to support the channel? You can go ahead and do that there. And of course, if you haven't already, pick up which is kind of the base for today's discussion, my book, Solutions for Anti-Black Misandry, Flat Blackness and Black Male Death, The Black Masculinist Turn. right? Make sure you go pick that up because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about a Black Masculinist turn. And I've been saying this for the last couple of years, that Black men were going to reach a point where they turned. And it's not a one-time thing. It's a series of moments that keep hitting us where we kind of do that. So you're going to see in a moment some of the ways we are going about that. Now, first and foremost, I want to say a lot of what we're going to end up getting into at the end is, returning to the 18-point Black male political agenda. This is something that has been created on this channel by the 40,000 subscribers that support this channel. Brothers have come together over the last 4 years and created a list of policies that we believe would be beneficial to Black men and boys. Okay? And it's unique to this channel, so we're going to support it. But I also want to show you some of the things that are coming along with that. So first and foremost, for example, if you are interested in picking up some merchandise on that matter, we got this. If you're interested in wearing the 18-point Black male political agenda, you can do so. And the easiest way to go ahead and pick it up is on the Institute website. And I'll go ahead and put that as a ticker for at the bottom for a little while. Right. So if you go to instituteforBlackMaleStudies.com, click merchandise, or go to the full link itself, you can see some of the new merchandise up there now. And this is one of the main pieces that I just put up yesterday. Right. This is actually the short list of the 18-point plan or agenda on the front, and then the picture on the back. So if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and pick that up there. There's hoodies, there's shirts, there's tank tops, and a number of different options there. So if you're interested in supporting the Black male political agenda, getting the word out about it, because interestingly enough, and we've seen this happen last year, they keep trying to recreate it, but they keep trying to water it down and not touch anything having to do with what we are actually talking about we want. Shout out to Danny Collins. What's good with you? Appreciate that support. So if you're interested in supporting, interested in picking up some of the shirt, some of the apparel, interested in getting the word out, please make sure you do so we can actually let people know what's going on. The other thing I want to highlight, like I said, we're going to come back to the agenda a little bit later, but for now, I want to show you some of the changes that I hope will be useful to you. So just want to show you real quick some of the newest things that have been brought to bear there. So this is the Black male political agenda. I will go ahead. Actually, I think Barry might have already put the link in the chat, but nonetheless, this is the agenda itself on the new Black Masculinities.wordpress.com site. It is the pinned article at the top, so you can go right into it. One of the first things we did is we created a PDF version. We've been getting requests for a PDF version. Shout out to Compassionate and Callous. The brother did a fabulous, incredible job putting together the PDF for it. So it's beautifully done. You can go here, download it for free. All you got to do is click the image of it. It'll download straight to your hard drive. You can open it up, check it out yourself, spread it around, email it. Of course, it's everything that's already on the site. So there's no additional information, but some people said they wanted a PDF version that they could look at when they're offline. So go ahead and check out the Black male political agenda in its PDF form. You can also, if you're interested, and you see the link right beneath it, you can go ahead. If you want a hard copy, you can order it. It costs $21.45, and that doesn't count shipping, and it only ships to the US and Canada. The price for it is strictly printing and shipping. It does not yield me a profit. There's no monies coming to us at all. It's purely just the cost of printing and shipping. So that $21.45 plus shipping is if you just really want a hard copy. But then again, it's a PDF. You want to print it out yourself, you're absolutely welcome. We were asked to produce a hard copy. We were asked to produce a PDF. So there you go. So you can go ahead and access that if you so choose. So that's up there at the very top of the document itself. Right? Just posted that yesterday. The next thing we were asked is to separate some of the listed items in the agenda, in terms of state and federal issues. Shout out to BGS, kind of help break this down real quickly. So, you can see there with the plan just at a glance, because if you remember the way this is formatted, this is the streamlined list. And then any of these you're interested in, you can either scroll down or click on them, and it'll take you to the full issue itself, right? So you read it in more detail. You can see how many subpoints are involved in each one. right? So family court reform has 17 subpoints. Criminal law reform has 13 subpoints. You can go ahead and see it from there. But you can also tell which are federal and or state issues, right? So you can see that straight out. And that way you can go ahead and articulate what you're interested in, right? Because people have been asking what Black men want. And here it is. We've actually broken it down in detail, what we're looking for. And so if anybody has any questions about that, this is the means by which you can hold these discussions. I don't care if it's Thanksgiving, if it's Christmas, I don't care what it is. You know, whatever the event may be, if you're interested and you want to have this conversation, people are going to start asking you questions. This is where you can actually send them. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. We're just trying to make sure we get the information out. So I just wanted to show you some of the new developments taking place with the agenda itself. And of course, as usual, this is an open document. So just because we're at 18 points does not mean it needs to end there. I don't give a damn if we get to 1,000 or more. We're just going to keep adding it. So if you want to find it and you don't know the URL, all you got to do is look for Black Male Political Agenda. You can put in my name, Hasan Johnson. You'll come up on it. Truthfully speaking, if you just put in Black Male Political Agenda alone, you'll find it. Right. So that said, make sure that you check that out. Right. I just wanted to get some of that on the table so you guys can see that things are still moving along, things are still advancing, and you can actually go ahead and continue to support. So if you have ideas, if you have things you still want to put forth, you can. If you want to add something to the agenda, you can send it to me. There's still a couple things in the hopper that have been sent to me that I'm looking at. So you're ready for that. Two very brief things before we jump into the main topic. These are not going to take long at all, although one of them should take longer. I just don't have enough information yet. So I just want to put this on your radar. Let me go ahead. There it is. So this is one of the things that has been discussed on Twitter or X, having to do with this young man here, Jacob Lindsay. Right? It says 18-year-old Jacob Lindsay was found hung from a tree in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, September 17th, 2024. Police are calling it suicide, family not believing it. Tree he was hung from was quickly cut down during active investigation. Biological family had been working to get custody of him for the past 11 years. So I'm still, kind of wading through information on this one, but I just wanted to put it on your agenda to look at something that should be brought out there and put up for information's sake. So I hope we can find more information about this and get it going. Hold on, let me back up. Shout out to Dr. Dunbar in the house. What's good with you? Says peace. Been looking forward to your reaction and take on all this madness. Oh man, we're gonna get there. LM, appreciate that. Drops a 5 on it. We definitely appreciate that. Let me see. Got Scorpion Black in the house. What's up? Shout out to Original Man. Says thank you for all that you do. Appreciate that. Right. Shout out to L Vincent. Super sticker. Appreciate that. Passport OG in the house. Make sure you check out Passport OG's channel. Just dropped a critical video this morning, picking up off of where BGS left off last night. So make sure you support the Passport OG channel. Go check him out. Dropping some words in there. Last thing, just a reminder, if you will, to make sure that you check out Fight Night show that's going on Peacock. A very interesting take on a moment that took place a few decades ago in Atlanta. I think it's pretty interesting. You might want to check it out. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but it just wrapped up for the season. I don't know if there's going to be multiple seasons. I rather doubt it. But nonetheless, it was a good series. It was about 8 episodes, so make sure you go check that out when you can and support. All right. So we're not going to be in here all night. We're going to get straight to it. All right. So what we've seen in the last number of years, but it keeps coming more and more to a head. Shout out to Wrench Turner. What's good with you, man? Right. M. Lavo, what's going on? Says bless you, doc, and stay strong. Don't wear an ounce of blame or shame via this election. Either way it goes, be strong. And that's real talk. That's real talk. Because what I'm trying to get brothers to know is that I don't give a damn how you vote. I really don't. I don't give a damn if you vote. If you decide to protest by not voting, I support you. You know what I'm saying? BMI is real. Shout out to Dr. Neil. Real talk. I support whatever Black men choose to do. I just don't support that we stay locked in the frame that we've been given, like we're children, and we're supposed to do what we're told because it makes other people happy. It brings other people resources. It puts other people in power so that they can leverage more resources for each other. We're supposed to stand here empty-handed yet again. And Black men are tired of it. Black men are absolutely tired of it. And that's the crux of it when we get down to this shit. But where it's gotten to, you got one party that really doesn't pay any attention to us at all. And you got another party that wages a shaming war every 4 years. That's really all it comes down to. I've been hearing the same fucking talking points since I was in high school. If we don't vote Democrat, oh my God, you're going to vote in a Republican, and we're not going to be able to vote again. We're not going to be able to buy property. You know, they're going to reinstitute slavery. I mean, I've heard the same talking points for decades, the same game over and over again. Now, personally, I went third party about nearly 25 years ago, and I don't regret any of that. I vote my conscience, and I go the direction I go. I register as an independent. I don't apologize for that. Shout out to Mr. GQ Smooth, here to support. Said I bought your book, Doc, and we'll read it soon. Appreciate that. Appreciate that support. Yeah. So I vote for, I push for brothers to find their own options. I think the most I'll say is I hope you have a position. I don't want to see you just completely check out where you can't articulate yourself. That's my own. That's really, and that's not a push. That's more of a request on my part. That what I'd like to see is that any brother that has a mic put in his face actually has a measured position that he's thought about. But short of that, I don't care what your conclusion is. Hopefully it's a conclusion that is not based on what you're told to do, but what you've come to on your own. And that's the crux of it. Black male independence is really what we're pushing for over here. We're looking for Black men to be able to stand on their own. And the war that's being waged on Black men by the Democrats has reached a crescendo. It's reached a crescendo. That's really what's going on. And I'm going to cover some of the things that have taken place to get us this far. Now, first and foremost, I just want to briefly cover some of the positions in regard to voting that a lot of people don't seem to know. And there's a couple brothers on Twitter that actually brought this up, and I want to shout them out for that. You got a brother named Marcus, you got a brother named Q Anthony, and they had an interesting series of posts that I want to share, right? So you can see it here, right? Marcus says, Black men were the highest male voting demographic for the following candidates. And this is really in contestation to what Obama said, but we're going to get into Obama's statements in a minute. But I just want to put this information up to level set the conversation and really get into a discussion about how Black men have been voting. Now, this isn't to say this is how you should vote. We're talking about what has transpired, right? What Black men have already done, and yet how we're described and talked about despite what we've done, right? So Black men were the highest male voting demographic for the following candidates: Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Stacey Abrams, Warnock, Ossoff, Barack Obama. And still get the pull your pants up and vote speech. I'm waiting for the day when HRC chastises white women, right? So that's one post. And he's responding to Q Anthony. And Q Anthony says, Black American men are quite literally the most progressive in America, and has already been mentioned, likely the most progressive men on the planet. Polls have shown them to exceed white women's progressive views. And what do they get for that? Yelled at every 2 to 4 years. He also puts up a couple charts that I want us to glance at real quick. Right. Shout out to L Train Galaxy. Yeah, Obama did a couple things he wasn't expecting. We're gonna get into it. OGB gaming, what's going on? Right. So it says egalitarian attitudes among racialized males. This is the first chart we're looking at. Our society should do whatever is necessary to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. Right. When you look at the chart between Hispanic men, Indigenous men, Asian Pacific Islander men, Black men, and white men, Black men exceed everybody. Right. By everybody, by at least a margin of 0.35 overall. Basically pushing for the belief that our society should do whatever is necessary to make sure that everyone has an equal opportunity to succeed. Black men are going to push for this because we know what it's like to not have access to success, to not have support, right? So Black men end up being quite progressive. Now we can have questions about whether or not that's, how that's impacted us, how we're treated, and we're going to get into that. I just want to level set the conversation. I want us to look at what we've actually been doing before we actually look at how people have talked about us. Okay? All right. So let me get this up here. All right. So the next chart, egalitarian attitudes among racialized males. It is not really that big a problem if some people have more of a chance in life than others. Again, same demographics of various types of men. Black men scored the lowest, meaning they disagreed to the highest degree with that sentiment. That it's not a big problem if some people have more of a chance than others. Black men disagreed with that most vehemently out of each group. Right? So these are the black men that are getting preached to. Right? Next chart, egalitarian attitudes, again, among racialized men. We have gone too far pushing equal rights. Black men voted to the least degree, suggesting that we have not gone far enough. Everybody else pushed for the option that we've gone too far. Black men to the least degree. Again, how you feel about this is not the question. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying this is how black men have been, putting forth their ideas. Now, this is sourced from all these charts I'm looking at come out of the American National Election Study cumulative file, 1948 to 2016. Weighted means, right? So basically, this is weighed over time, right? So black men have been suggesting that, by and large, we haven't gone far enough. And what's interesting about this is if you look at DEI or affirmative action, any of these options, these are usually ideas that start out talking about what black men should actually get first, since black men find themselves at the bottom of most of these lists, but we end up being the last in line and usually end up getting scraps. And yet, these are the kind of things black men have been pushing for. Shout out to Ghetto User for the support. Appreciate that, good brother. Shout out to Officer Faulkner. What's good with you, man? Hope you're well. All right. And this is the last one here of these charts. Right? The U.S. would have fewer problems if everyone was treated equally. Black men voted to the highest degree by a margin of almost about 0.36. So more than everybody else. Yet again, black men opted to argue that the U.S. would have fewer problems if everyone was treated equal. Right? So this is the kind of push that black men have been on. Now, this may actually backfire since black men are at the forefront of holding these positions and yet are constantly demeaned. This is the last one I'll put up. Many of you have seen this. This is based in the 2016 election, right, between Clinton and Trump. We can look at each demographic: white men and women, black men and women, Latino men and women, and then others. And when you look at it, you find that yet again, and this pretty much happens every 4 years, black men vote to the second highest degree for Democrats. In this case, Hillary Clinton, and they voted 13% for Trump. So this is, this is based on exit poll data from CNN with over nearly 25,000 voters, right, weighing in. Now, black men voting to the second highest degree, you also must keep in mind, we're still the most voter disenfranchised group, right? Still the most voter disenfranchised group. No other demographic deals with that, including black women. So vote 82%. You would think that within the Democrat Party, that there would be some respect. There would be some acknowledgement. There would be a sense that black men have value. And because they're so loyal, they'd be treated like human beings. Let me know when that happens. Let me know when it happens, right? This is part of the problem we're looking at. Black men have had an ongoing stance of being fairly progressive, more than any other group of men on a consistent basis. And at the same time, being the most attentive fathers, being the most participatory fathers. So when you're talking about men participating in family, participating in politics, looking at the values that black men tend to stand on more often than not, you would think that black men would be honored, supported, and respected. And if anything, saluted for the position they hold. And yet that doesn't seem to be the case. The moment that Kamala Harris was identified to be the front runner for the Democratic Party, right? After Biden stepped down, after it became clear that there were questions about his competence being raised after his first debate with Trump, from the moment Harris was put in the front seat, people started to talk about black men as a threat to her being elected. And it never stopped. From the very moment she was placed in the front runner position, Black men were called out within the Democratic Party, especially by Black women, as being the primary opposition. Now, looking over the stats you just saw, that's the first conclusion people reached about Black men and identified us as the primary threat. I find that to be extremely interesting. But that nonetheless is one of the first things that took place. And then we started to get this. Now I'm going to show you a couple of different videos. You know how I do it on my channel. I don't show the video clip itself. I put a picture. We listen to the clip because I keep getting hit with these copyright issues and I'm not really trying to let that happen. So the first major hit that came across very recently was via one of my favorite athletes when I was in high school, Magic Johnson. Right? Magic took a swipe at Black men on behalf of the Democratic Party and Black feminists and whatnot. These are short clips. I'm not trying to play the whole speech for any of this shit because many of you have already seen it. But the reason I do these things is because when you come back to these videos a year or two later, you know, even though we're all watching the same stuff and seeing the same videos, if you don't have it for posterity later, it doesn't make as much sense. So we just got to set the record. So this is Magic talking to Black men in a major speech he gave.
Now, there's a lot of Black men in here, and I don't mean to, you know, not talk to other people, but this is important. Our Black men, we got to get them out to vote. That's number one.
Now, again, I told you, Black men are the most voter disenfranchised group, but they're voting to the second highest degree beyond any other demographic. And that's the first thing you have to say about Black men? Really? Which relies on the underlying idea that Black men are just not participatory. But here's the problem with that. To the extent, well, first of all, it's not true. Black men do participate, but to the extent you have Black men that don't participate along the lines you want them to, you didn't even pay them the basic respect of not only asking why, but articulating what they're doing. See, the subtext to what they're saying here is that you Negroes just sit at home and, you know, you pick lint out of your pubic hair and you don't do shit. When in actuality, you have people doing all kinds of things. And just because they may not vote Democrat doesn't mean that they're inactive, doesn't mean that they haven't thought through what they're doing, doesn't mean they're not intentional in their actions, even if they decide not to participate at all. But they're going to rely on the stereotypical idea that we're just sitting at home bullshitting because we're not intelligent enough to care. And this is the problem I have with these positions taken by the party that's benefited most from our participation, that they themselves hold the position that Black men aren't smart enough. So even though we vote for them, we're still not smart enough. And if we don't vote, or if we vote for someone else, or if we vote down ballot, then somehow we're still not smart enough. Interesting. Let's let them continue.
Kamala's opponent promised a lot of things last time to the Black community that he did not deliver on. And we got to make sure we help Black men understand that.
So now we need to be handheld. We need to be understood. They need to walk us through understanding it because we're too dumb to understand it. I was talking to a brother last week about this, and he was talking about how idiotic brothers were who voted for Trump because they couldn't articulate why. And part of the reason he held that position is because you had hit pieces like the one Don Lemon did, where he went around interviewing Black men that were voting for Trump, and the ones that he got that couldn't articulate themselves well was the ones he put on the screen. Now, again, I'm not a Trump. I don't vote Trump. I never voted Republican. I have no interest in doing so. But I'm not going to sit around here and talk about Black men not being intelligent because they do. Because I've met a lot of brothers that can clearly articulate to you why they're doing what they're doing, whether you agree with it or not. But what Don Lemon did is he put men who couldn't articulate their position, and he made that the face of Black men that don't vote Democrat. They ignored any other position other than Black men who vote for Trump, and then they labeled those men, almost Willie Horton style, as not being very intelligent. And what you're doing is you're pissing Black men the fuck off, because you're fundamentally misaligning. You're framing us as not being intelligent. You're even leveraging old stereotypes that go back over a century, framing Black men as being less intelligent, less capable, less relevant, less participatory, but not because they have a reason to be, but because they're not bright enough to know they need to participate. And this is the face, this is the image you're going to put forth about black men, and you're going to use prominent black folk, or what some refer to as the boule, to do it. You're going to have them get on TV and tell the world, even when they share the same demographic, that black men are not bright enough to keep up. This is the problem I have with this shit. It's only if you got a few seconds left.
That's why I'm here, to make sure I help black men understand. First, get out and vote.
Okay, so first get out and vote, right? That's what he's there to help us understand, because we're not bright enough to know that we, might want to participate on some type of grounds, right? So that's part of it. The other major hit that came about was from Barack Obama himself. So they done brought out what they believe to be Black Jesus to set black men straight, to take marching orders from Michelle and come out here and set us straight, because we're clearly not following what we're supposed to be. So let's see what Obama has to say. Many of you have seen this clip. Again, I'm not showing the video, but I am playing the audio for copyright purposes, but still fair use. Here we go.
Is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences. Who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land.
I put it there. I can listen to shit. Anyway, the fundamental idea that Obama's trying to put forth here is obviously a shaming tactic. A lot of this stuff that we've been hearing lately is all shaming tactics. It's all sign language, shame, insult, guilt, the need to be right. Shout out to BGS. That's all this really is, right? And the idea here is that black men are betraying and letting down black women, right? Black men, the picture he's painting is that we all supported Obama and everybody was good. But when a black woman goes to run for president, black men in traitorous fashion step back because she's a woman. And this is what he says. He says, I think you fundamentally are pulling back because it's a woman. And I think and this is what he accuses black men of, demonstrating no evidence of having actually listening to black men. Right? He posits that the reason black men aren't supporting Kamala is because they don't want a woman in office. But what did I show you a moment ago about who black men voted for in the past? Right? Clearly that wasn't a problem. Black men have voted for women before. That's not a problem. And it's not a problem because she's quote unquote a black woman. There's a lot of debate about that, but black men are not, even look, at the end of the day, this election is probably statistically going to turn out the same, at least to the extent that the majority of black male voters are probably going to vote Democrat. It is what it is. And just to be clear, I think it was Anthony that said something in the comment section a moment ago about Trump voters. Look, I'm not judging who people vote for, but I'm telling you this. I am defending black men's right to choose who the fuck they want to vote for and not be shamed, judged, or maligned about doing so. Because they're not doing it to any other group. And we know it's white men and white women that are shifting the election, most particularly white women. But somehow black men have to be talked out of their name. I'm not supporting that. I don't care who you vote for. I will not support black men being maligned and stereotyped because they're not voting in some fashion, one way or the other. I'm not supporting it if it happens on the right. I'm not supporting it when it happens on the left. Not doing it. Black men have the fucking right to choose who they want to vote for and should be able to do so without being shamed or stereotyped simply because someone else doesn't like it. I give a damn if you like it or not. That's what I'm here to support. Black men having the right and the freedom to choose whatever the hell they want to do, and to be taken seriously and to be heard. Because contrary to popular evidence, Black men have been speaking on why they're choosing what they're choosing, no matter what it is. And there are different camps. See, this is the problem with what the Democrats are doing. They're trying to make the argument that anybody not voting for Kamala is voting for Trump. And therefore, that's a bad thing because he's the Antichrist. Look, first of all, that's not what's happening. Black men are participating on all kinds of levels. And what they really need to be concerned about is how many Black men, after every 4-year period, loses their interest because they vote for something and see no demonstrable change in their own lives. For the average Black man, if they can't tell the difference, in qualitatively speaking, between a Biden presidency, a Trump presidency, a Bush presidency, if they don't see a quality of life difference, yet you want them to get excited every 4 years to vote for something, but no candidate speaks to Black men's needs until they're desperate at the last second. And even then, Kamala's not the first to do this. Even then, put forth an agenda that's not based on anything Black men have really said. We'll get to that. The point of getting back to Obama, though, this position he took where he actually made the argument that it's Black men just not feeling a woman was so fucking off point, was so ridiculously void of context, void of reference, out of touch entirely with Black men, which is not surprising. He's never really been in touch with Black men, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But at the end of the day, he made this statement, and he suggested that we're not. Now, let me be clear about something, and I've said this before. He's framing this as Black women have been consistent, been supportive, they've been right there. Black men are just traitorous, and they're turning on Black women by not voting for Kamala, by voting for, racist white men. This is the narrative that Obama constructs in his statement, right? The idea being that he can't understand why these men hate women so much and can't understand the blessings of feminism and the value of their own women. And this is how he chooses to malign Black men. Now, first and foremost, let's put some things into context. He makes this basic suggestion that we need to vote for Kamala because Black women voted for Barack, right? Black women supported a Black man. Couple of things. First of all, Black men did not produce Obama. We were just as surprised when he started to gain traction in the election as everybody else. Because most of the time, when we've seen Black male candidates run for anything, we're usually only there to make sure certain Black issues make the debate conversation. That's it. When they have the onstage debate between presidential candidates, traditionally speaking, outside of Jesse Jackson's run and, Shirley Chisholm, maybe, we never really thought of these presidential bids as something that, was serious. They were just tactics to make sure our issues were on the table. So when Barack started to gain traction, especially over Hillary, a lot of people were surprised, including Black men, because Black men did not produce him. We didn't put him up there and then ask Black women to support. Let me tell you what happened. When he started to gain traction, I started to hear Black women talk. And one of the first things I heard Black women say was, I bet you he's either married to a white woman or what they called a light bright. The idea was he's probably married to a white woman or an extremely light-skinned woman, right? That was the kind of slander being put forth toward Obama, not before he started to gain traction, while he was gaining traction. And when they saw Michelle, they fell in love. They did not vote for Obama. They voted for Michelle. Obama was a proxy for them voting for Michelle. The idea was that Michelle was going to set him straight and make sure that their interests were met because she was a real Black woman, right? That was the idea. They loved the fact that he had 2 daughters, right? That meant he's a girl dad, he's married to a strong Black woman, and that they would keep him on path. They would keep him straight. And the fact that he's not, ADOS, FBA, they're going to sidestep all of that. Now, I'm going to tell you, now that we're looking at Kamala, who's married to this Jewish white guy, Black men, for the most part, don't care. Now, interestingly enough, Black women don't seem to care either, because as long as Black women are swirling, it's okay. It's only when Black men decide to be with non-Black women that it's a problem. The only time I've heard Black men bring up the fact that Kamala's husband is white is just to kind of put forth the double standard, knowing full well that if Obama was married to a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman, Black women would not have voted for him. Not in any significant numbers. They would have talked shit. And if they did vote for him, they'd have held their nose while they were doing it. Because again, we tend to have this vote blue no matter who kind of framework, right? but they would have talked that man into the ground. They voted for Michelle. And were disappointed when Michelle said she wasn't going to ever really run on her own. There's a whole contingency of people, most particularly Black women, that could not wait for Michelle to run, to change her mind. And if you think all of the fervor over Kamala is bad, if Michelle was running, it would be ridiculous. Because there wouldn't be arguments about whether or not she was, FBA, whether or not, there wouldn't be those arguments, right? So she, a lot of people would be in line with that. And it's, you kind of had a similar dynamic as Clinton and Hillary. Like if you had a president that was well regarded by certain demographics throughout the 2 bids, 8 years, then, if their spouse runs, there's a lot of people that's going to be excited about that. So people hope Michelle would. She never changed her mind about that. So they settled for Kamala. And it was Black women that demanded that Biden put a Black woman as the vice president. Wasn't the one anybody really saw coming, considering how bad she lost in the last election, but eventually they got on board with it. I mean, at the end of the day, she went to Howard, she was in a sorority, so, that was enough. They were willing to run with it. And so Obama presents this narrative that Black men are, in treasonous fashion, turning on Black women by not supporting Kamala. Even though Black men were asking for policy. Black men were saying, what do I get for doing this? What actually changes? What happens? And that was shouted down. And it's been shouted down. This is what happened with Ice Cube a few years ago when he put forth his plan and he tried to meet with Democrats and Republicans. And then he was called a Trump supporter when the Republicans were the only one that would meet with him. And then he went on Cocktails with Queens and they told him that it wasn't good enough because they didn't have enough he didn't have enough there for Black women. He actually didn't have anything there specifically for Black men either. His approach wasn't gender-based. They assumed it was, and they assumed that Black women were given the short stick and decided to challenge him about it. And he invited them to help write more to it. Don't think they ever participated in that myself, but I don't know. Doubt it. Nonetheless, Cube was maligned and Black men were maligned. But this is where I started to talk about the Black Masculinist Turn. This is where I started to talk about Black men starting to get a sense that the way we were raised to think about the community, the way we were raised to think about our relationship to Black women, whether it be social, whether it be dating and mating, marriage, children, family, or whether it be political, may not be what we thought it was. That was one of the major Black Masculinist turns. Now, I've been making the argument, if you read my book, that there have been turns for the longest, all kinds of turns. Moments in history where we started to realize that things are not the way we were told they were. Shout out to Tiberius for the support. I recall seeing Obama's turn towards feminist rhetoric after he was reelected. Yeah, absolutely. He's doubled down. Dante Bryant says, thank you, sir. Say it again. Okay. Anyway, so in that respect, let me write down here. Where was I? Damn it. One thing, trying to keep my train of thought while all these things are beeping and flashing in my face. I'm a little out of practice. But anyway, this whole push to, and when I talk about a Black Masculinist Turn, I was saying there were various moments where these things had taken place, and they're starting to accelerate. As we have social media expanding, we get more of it. Because prior to social media, you had to wait for an album to come out, a television show or film to come out, a news event to take place. It was much slower. With the advent of social media and smartphones and tablets, it's going a lot faster, and we're getting more of them. Another major Black Masculinist turn was when Kevin Samuels died. And I don't care, you had brothers that couldn't stand Kevin Samuels. Couldn't stand him. But they saw how some women celebrated his death, threw parties to celebrate his death. And the irony to it all was that Kevin was one of the last major figures who was trying to repair the Black family. He was pushing for marriage. If you watch his show, despite the antics, the back and forth with hostile folk, because he gave it like you gave it. If you called Kevin and you were smiling in light, he was smiling in light with you. If you called him to cuss him out, he'd throw it right back at you. But at the end of the day, Kevin was trying to reestablish Black families through marriage. And when they celebrated his death, something you didn't see Black men do when Bell Hooks died, you didn't see that, whatever Black feminist, passed away, you didn't see Black men dancing in the aisles and throwing parties. And we had to read a lot of that shit as required reading in grad school. You didn't want to hear Kevin Samuels. All you had to do is change the video you were watching on YouTube. But I had to sit through and read some of the most misandrous bullshit that you could imagine and have professors back it up and tell you things in class based on their own perceptions. And this was considered required reading in courses that had nothing to do with gender. They weren't even gender courses. It's not like I went into a women's studies course and then got pissed off at how they talked about men. I'd be in a lit class. I'd be in a theory class. And yet the professors would invoke these ideas, these feminist ideas, no matter how inhumane or misandrous they were. They had to sit and take it. But they celebrated when that man died. They told jokes. They laughed. And black men, even black men that didn't like Kevin, stood back and said, whoa, that's a black masculinist turn. That's a moment where black men are realizing. Another one, and this will be the last example, but I just want folks who may not have read the book and who may not have heard me talk about a black masculinist turn, I want you to understand what I mean. Another one was BLM. You had the groundswell, you had the people that were actively, and they were fighting to end, police homicide, particularly of black men, since before BLM. And so when people heard about BLM, Black Lives Matter, many of us thought it was just a chant. Many participated. When we found out it was an organization, many just assumed it was the next iteration of black protest. But when we started to see them producing their own rhetoric, we started to see this black feminist kind of framework, especially on the website, where they wanted to reframe the nuclear family and remove men from the conversation. When we started to see them ambulance chasing the deaths of black men to bait and switch the conversation to talk about anything other than black males, that's when you had another black masculinist turn. And brothers started to notice. Brothers started to pay attention. And there were brothers right there on the spot when BLM tried to take over the Michael Brown protests that were reporting on it all day. And y'all know some of those brothers. Call them out in the chat. Because I want to say about 6 of them lost their lives mysteriously. And you ain't hear about no other BLM members losing their lives like that. Considering how widespread that movement was, it was just a handful of brothers that had to die. I found that interesting. And nobody gave a damn. Right? So again, we're talking about these black masculinist turns. Obama made one of the latest ones by making this accusation toward black men that wasn't based in anything. He didn't cite anything. He didn't cite anyone. He didn't say I had a conversation with somebody of significance. He didn't say I read this book. He didn't say I had a town hall with 400 black men. And the overall statement from all of them is that they hated women and just didn't want to see a vagina in the executive, he didn't say anything. He just accused black men. And some applauded him. Some of them applauded him for doing it. So the turn itself was Obama saying it, but also what participated in that turn was watching how many people supported it. And yet again, I showed you the voting record on black men. I showed you earlier the stance they took, the progressive stance they took, and this is the reward they get. Right? I was waiting to see who would notice it. Shout out to D Payne, Aaron Seals. Aaron Seals called that shit out on the ground while it was happening. Anyway, so as far as Obama's concerned, he laid it out. Now, there were some responses that we'll get to in a minute to that. But Barack created a whole nother situation. And then, of course, after that, we had The View. Sonny Holston in particular, who had this to say when she was characterizing all the different groups who were engaged in this process of, the electoral, process and whether or not they were going to support a Kamala. What does she have to say about it?
We can't poll people's hearts and we can't see into people's hearts. And so when we're looking at these polls and we're looking at who is voting for Trump, you've got 53% of white women that voted for him in 2020. We've got to reach those women. We've got to reach those ridiculous, crazy black men that did vote for Trump. We've got to reach those people. We've got to reach the Cuban men in Miami that overwhelmingly voted for Trump. I don't know what their hearts look like, but I know what their votes look like.
The only group that's safe to malign is black men. That's the only one. See, look, here's the thing. Even if you don't agree with what candidate someone's voting for, and you may not even agree with why, it doesn't mean that they don't have a reason, and you don't have to like the reason. But the fact that they have one and they can articulate one is the basis of an electoral civilization, correct? But you're going to malign a whole population of men, and you're going to use old stereotypes to do so, right? Shout out to Black Uru. Let's see. says Seals was dead within just a few months of publicly talking about the BLM. Exactly. Yeah. I found out about Seals a little too late. I wish I'd have caught on to him earlier when he was still alive. I think I found out, I want to say just before he passed. I want to say I found out about him before he passed, but it wasn't enough time. And I wish I could have found out when he was still out there really pushing it. But going back to Sunny Hostin, right? So she makes this statement quite comfortably, unapologetically. She's happy to malign black men. And she doesn't realize that she is jumping on something that is about to turn. So all these people are speaking about black men quite comfortably because they're used to it. They've been able to do it for years and nobody says anything. Shaming black men, it's fine. But if you're going to talk to Cuban men, if you're going to talk to white, and you notice they didn't even say white men. You're going to talk to white men, you're going to talk to Jews. If you're going to talk to any of these groups, you address them in their proper form and you suggest what might need to happen. But when you talk about black men, those crazy black men, okay, you're going to piss off black men that aren't even voting for that. It doesn't have anything to do with Trump. It has to do with the disrespect for black men and black male thought. That's what the fundamental problem is here. And that's what's starting to happen. Black men are starting to turn, right? Now, before I get to the turn, because there have been a number, I also want to talk about another type of turn, because I'm looking at a two-pronged attack that the Democratic Party has been engaging in. The first part was using Magic, Obama, and Sonny to attack black men openly. The other one has been with this black men's agenda. Now, I'm going to start off just out the gate by letting you know, I'm not, I agree with BGS on this. It's not that Kamala's agenda is negative to the point where I don't think any of it is okay. My issue with it is that at no point has anybody really sat down with black men in any critical form, some serious dialogue about what black men's political interests are. That's the problem I have with it. And the reason I say it that way is because, not the first. Some of you guys remember this. Let me pull this off the screen. Remember this from a while back when Stacey Abrams was running in Georgia. And she created a black men's agenda. Now, I found it interesting because if you put black men, political agenda in Google, the only thing you were going to find was us. So as far as I was concerned, you can't tell me someone in her cabinet didn't run across the black male political agenda, but I digress. This is what she put forth, right? Yeah, the black men's agenda, because she was worried about losing the election. So at the last minute, she kind of threw this at the wall, hoping it would stick. And of course, black men in Georgia were being blamed before the loss or the possible loss. Sound familiar? I'm not saying Kamala's going to lose. I'm not a fortune teller. There's a lot of brothers that probably have more inside information on that. What I find interesting is that we're already being set up. We're being set up to be the fall guy for her failure. And that, again, that started. I've heard those conversations on television the moment she was picked. So it's not like it's just happening in the last couple of days. I've been hearing this for months. Black men are somehow already preemptively responsible for her loss. Even though what we saw happen with Hillary had more to do with white women than it ever had to do with black men, somehow it still remains black men's fault. And truthfully, the numbers of white women who are going to vote are probably going to have just as much impact on this election. Because again, what you have to deal with is not what people say they're going to do. It has to do with what people actually do when they're in the voting booth. And it's not black men you got to worry about. Whether we like saying it, hearing it, doesn't matter. It's not black men that they're really worried about. White women will switch on your ass real quick for whatever reason. So will they vote for Kamala? We'll see. But black men are already being primed to take the blame. And if she wins, they're going to stop talking about black men altogether. Okay. We're responsible for the loss. But if she wins, we're not worthy of dialogue at all. We've seen this play. So anyway, so you got Stacey Abrams here with the black men's agenda. I'm not going to go through this word for word, but you can see some of it here. Basically, what she did, she talked about economic security. She talked about healthcare and housing. She talked about education and job training. She talked about criminal justice and public safety. But all she really did is she pulled down. This is one of the reasons, because she did this last minute. All she did is she took out things that the Democrats were already doing for everybody, and she just sold it to black men as if this is something that they sat down and strategically planned to attract black male voters. No, they were already on the books. She just put black men in front of them so you can get your attention. Sound familiar? This is a play that's already been run. We've already done this. Except this one was in Georgia. But she laid out the blueprint for this. You might be able to get more black votes if you give them the impression that you give a damn about them. You might be able to if you give a damn about them. Black Guru says, by my count, they put up near $1.3 billion for the Dems this election. They got to find somebody to blame if and when Harris loses. They already have. Ready to go. The public image of black men right now is that all black men just want to vote for Trump. They can't tell you why, but they're only doing so because they feel like their masculinity is threatened. But here's the thing. I do make the argument that manhood is threatened. I do. On the left, most particularly, black manhood at that is just as criminally reframed and maligned as it has been for generations. It's just freshly done, but it's an old game, and they never stop playing, particularly among the left. Especially if you want to deal with identity culture, intersectional feminism, black men most particularly, and heterosexual men in general are still viewed as the enemy. It's just in this instance, you can see this in DEI culture as well. Black men are treated like honorary white men for the most part. We are considered as much a problem as any other group of men, if not more so. And actually, I argue more so, simply because we're black and male and heterosexual in that front, on those fronts. That's a problem in and of itself. So that being said, this is what's going on. We're getting this treatment again. This play right here with Stacey Abrams is the same play that we see happening with Kamala Harris. Right? Let's see if I can enlarge this a little bit. There we go. Yeah. This is what it is. Now, again, I'm only going to go through so much of this. I'm not trying to be here all night. But at the end of the day, this is what we're listening to. Vice President Harris will deliver for black men. She will provide the tools to black men to build wealth, support families, and lead in their communities. Now, why does she put that language out? Because black men are not considered the leaders in their community. That's not how we're framed. This is a lure. This is the idea here is that, I might help you to become leaders because, for the most part, we already know you're not considered such. Most particularly by black women in an electoral position to leverage resources in some fashion. Those resources are going to be leveraged on gendered terms that black males don't benefit from. Right? And yes, I agree with you, Black Guru. Black men are honorary white men, but without any of the actual benefits of being white men. Absolutely. Shout out to Jail Block 30 says, look out for the and others language in that agenda. And that's absolutely what we're going to look at, brother. That's absolutely that. So just, here you can just see the kind of breakdown happening. Vice President Harris laying out an opportunity agenda for black men. Now, again, look at the language there. Agenda for black men. Google black male political agenda. See, they keep playing around with this, but you can't tell me these people ain't seeing what we put down. There's no way you're using this language and not seeing what over 40,000 black men have participated in and supported. It went viral on Twitter like a month or two ago, right? A lot of people hated it, but the thing about it was, for every person, most of them were, feminists. They stand up and say they didn't like something. Every time it happened, there was a brother that would reach out to me and be like, you know what? I never saw it in writing before. I had these thoughts. They weren't even really thoughts. I had these general ideas, these feelings, these kind of leanings would probably be the best term. I had some leanings toward things, but I never fully articulated what it is I thought. And I said this before. There was another brother reached out to me about a month and a half ago, if not 2 months, and he said, black men and women don't have any political differences. So I showed him the agenda, and he read it. He got back with me. He said, you know what? I got to tell you, May not agree with everything, but this is far more in depth than I thought. But he said, I still don't think we have any serious political differences from Black women. I said, okay, I'll do you this. Sit down with Black women. Sit down with one, if not a group. If you can find a group, even better. Tell me if you can get through the first point on the Black male political agenda. I'll do you one better. Tell me if you can get through the first 2 subpoints in the first point on the Black male political agenda. He went out and did it. And all he did is he texted me back and he was like, yeah, we didn't make it past the first subpoint. The reality is Black men do have political interests that don't necessarily have to be antagonistic or oppositional to any other demographic, including Black women necessarily. But it's taken that way for one. And for two, we have differences. And there shouldn't have to be anything wrong with that. But Black men are vilified for having differences. The only thing is, as long as Black men can articulate what those differences are, they're tolerated. And don't make no mistake. The Democratic Party, Black men are tolerated. That's really fundamentally what we are. We're tolerated. We're drug out and put on display when it's convenient and useful to say, see, we have Black votes. Even Black men support us. But when Black men actually start to articulate what they need or want, all of a sudden, interesting. Shout out to Art Nustel. What's good, Art? Hope you're well. Let's see. Shout out to Douglas. Says if Trump put out this plan, the same folks praising Kamala would be tearing this plan apart. Yeah, no question. No question. All right. So anyway, so we're just going to look at a little bit of this. Right? So the agenda for the opportunity agenda for Black men. Number one, providing 1 million loans that are fully forgivable to Black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. Now, the language here is really interesting because if you just read these 5 bullet points alone, it may not be enough for you, but it at least leaves you with the perception that you're being looked at. Right? Providing 1 million loans that are fully forgivable to Black entrepreneurs, but the words that keep kind of coming up that mess up the program, though, keep messing up the program, is and others. Right? Championing education, training, and mentorship programs that help Black men get good paying jobs in high demand industries and lead their communities, including pathways to become teachers. Okay. The question on Black men becoming teachers always really came down to pay. Because if it wasn't enough to support a family, most particularly, and you know, understand, Black men in the classroom, it's a different experience. And I've talked about this over the years. And Black male teachers know. And if you've ever taught in a school environment as a Black male, you understand what tends to happen is you're in an environment full of women, especially if you're doing the lower part of K through 6, K through 8. But it even happens in in high school as well, right? You come in as a Black male. One of the first things you do, you're in an environment that is mostly female run. And what they'll tend to do is give you the dregs of each class. By dregs, I don't mean they actually are dregs. I mean the ones who are considered dregs. Because much of the time, what I found is that these young Black men and they're usually Black men, young Black men, they're usually not heard. They've usually not have had anybody really invest in them or take them seriously. Much of the time, they've been thrown into special ed and dismissed. That's what I've tended to find would take place. So what they end up doing is they throw you in a classroom and they take all of these choice characters in each class and put them all in your room. And you're expected to straighten them out. But here's the twist. Many Black male teachers actually succeed in doing so. And when they come to the administration and say, we need X kind of resource, I have an idea, I think we could take this to the next level, they're slapped down, often unsupported. And I'm telling you this after 30 years of conversations and direct experiences in the classroom. I'm not making this up. Black men will tell you, I had it together. I started to pull them together. We were starting to gain some traction. I had an idea of how we could take it further. And usually they come up with ways to do it that were fairly inexpensive because most of the time we don't generally have direct access to, large amounts of resources. So they'll come up with ideas and be slapped down. And after a while, when request upon request upon request gets smacked down, what you're told is stay in that classroom, keep them kids quiet, and push them through to graduation. And brothers get tired. and leave. And not only do they leave that class and that school, they often don't go back to teaching. They change industries altogether. I've been there. And you know, one of the interesting things that happen when you leave, those young men that were thrown into your class because they were the dregs of their classroom and nobody wanted to deal with them, they're the first ones to cry when you leave. Same ones that scare the crap out of everybody else. But anyway, so the question about black males teaching is not about whether or not you can get black men in the classroom. It's one, are you going to support them when they're there? And yes, are you going to pay them a livable wage? Why go into an industry if you're not even going to have the means to be able to eat, but then you're going to get slapped down whenever you have an idea that might actually improve the situation? Tell me how that works, right? So supporting a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency and other digital assets so black men who invest in and own these assets are protected. Right? Launching a national health equity initiative focusing on black men that addresses sickle cell, diabetes, mental health, prostate cancer, and other health challenges that disproportionately impact them. Right? A national health equity initiative. Okay. Legalizing recreational marijuana and creating opportunities for black Americans to succeed in this new industry. That one sounds like it's at least 10, 15 years out of date. But anyway, what I find is all of this and others talk. And others, and others, and others, right? All over the place. He wants to build a pipeline of teachers, including by investing in programs under the Department of Education. See, when you start invoking programs and funding, other groups may hear opportunities, but what I find is a lot of brothers actually hear red tape. They hear a lot of shit that never quite reaches the ground. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it right at this moment. I think I shared it, so I'm going to see if I can find it. But I was, let me see, I came across irony. Yeah, here it is. I'm not going to be able to put it on the screen because I'm just glancing at it on my phone. But irony, Osei Frimpong, actually said something on Twitter that had me laughing about this very plan. He said, Harris's plan for black males is like the zillionth nonprofit that opened up in your city. It pretends to solve a problem. Then when a decade goes by and it doesn't, the director shrugs her shoulders and says, oh, well, I tried, and retires to a gala based on her work. Every time I start hearing about putting funding to a program that at some point will reach black males at the bottom, I don't think it works. And I don't think most black men expect it to work either. Because for the most part, that's the kind of language that's been used to keep us from funding. But again, as long as you're talking about and others, again, another reason for many black men to suspect that this will never reach us. This is just like, trickle down theory, right? This is Reagan trickle down theory. It's supposed to get to the ground level to help people, but for the most part, it never does. Shout out to Shanti Fraser. Appreciate the support. But that's what it seems like. It seems like another, but she's pulling this the same way we saw Stacey Abrams pull it. She's going to pull out some general programs that are benefiting anybody who's anybody. You don't even have to be a Democrat, right? If these are put into policy, you benefit from them as long as you tap into them. But we're going to frame it like it's for black men. And actually, when you look at the business loan, or the forgivable loan, I guess it is, up to $20,000. When you actually look at the language of it, right? Small Business Administration and trusted partners on the ground to provide loans that are forgivable for up to $20,000 to entrepreneurs. We saw this. I called this earlier this year when Harris sat down with a group of black male entrepreneurs, and then she promised to send them funds. And then the next month, she sent out a great deal of resources to very specific groups. None of those resources were targeted at any group or organization that identified as black male run, but there were other groups. There were other groups that got resources. And they were able to dance around the identity politics game to get them. But when it comes to black folk, most particularly black men, well, now we have to be fair and equal to everybody, right? You end up with the only one that doesn't have any food on your plate. Exactly. TIOS, I think that is, or QS, excuse me. Another PPP loan scam. That's exactly how it feels. Exactly. So anyway, that's that part. So, like I said, Democrats have attacked black men in two primary ways. They did so with Obama, Sonny Holson, Magic Johnson, But then I think they did so with this kind of bait and switch idea on an agenda. Not because the agenda itself is horrible, but because at the end of the day, nothing in it gave us the idea that this would trickle down to the ground level and benefit Black men. None of it had to do with anything that it looked like you had to do with sitting down with a large group of Black men, not just Black men that are in the Democrat Party that want to tell you what you want to hear, but Black men whose votes you want, that have all kinds of ideological roots in places and in ideas that you don't necessarily support. But if you want their votes, you got to talk to them. And I haven't seen the Democratic Party reach out and talk to Black men in any kind of critical way. Matter of fact, I've seen Black women in particular in the party chastise Black men because the party has had to even address them. The idea is we're supposed to shut up and vote. And if we don't do so, it's because we're inherently sexist. We're misogynists. So the fact that the Democratic Party has to sit down and talk to Black men is considered treasonous in and of itself. And we're just a bunch of sexists that they have to tolerate. But in actuality, like with any demographic, you should be trying to earn their votes. And Kamala herself said that when she sat down with the NABJ at the Black Journalists Association. The last time she sat down with them, because she missed the first one when Trump was there. But when she showed up and finally sat down with them, she herself said that she needed to earn Black male votes. Somehow everybody forgets that. But you don't earn Black male votes by cobbling together at the last second a list of things that you're already doing for anybody to benefit from. Right? So Andre says, to be fair, loans are better than the original tax credits, but it's still not Black specific as well. Nothing else in her, as well as anything else in her agenda. Yeah. You know, but anyway, so those are the two, that's the two-pronged effect. Well, let's look at the blowback. Let's look at the blowback, right? Now, after Obama's public statement, you had a couple of responses that I thought were interesting. One of the most interesting ones that caught me off guard was Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley did a 10-point breakdown of his issues with Obama. And I'm just going to put up about a minute of it. But this is where he kind of framed Obama's interpretation of Black men responding to his latest little speech. This is Tavis Smiley.
I know he is still scratching his head. I've been talking down to these Negroes for 15 years. Now they're going to act all brand new like they don't know me? Help me, Holy Ghost. No, y'all know who I am. I'm the one who at the Congressional Black Caucus dinner told y'all to stop whining, stop crying, stop complaining, take off your slippers and go do something. I'm the same one who admonished Black men during my commencement address at Dr. King's alma mater, Morehouse College. Somebody rescue me if I'm wrong. I'm the same one who gave Black men the business at a Black church on the south side of Chicago, wait for it, on Father's Day. Y'all know who I am. I'm the one who sang Amazing Grace in South Carolina. I'm the one who broke y'all off some Al Green at the Apollo in Harlem. Now you acting all funny style. Y'all Negroes know me. I'm the one who told you repeatedly, I am not the president of Black America. I'm the president of all America. Y'all Negroes are killing me.
Tavis went in. And that was just a clip. That was like the last minute of it. He did a whole 10-point breakdown on it, on the issues with Obama in regard to Black men. Right? But I thought that last clip really encapsulates what he was saying well. When you really begin to recount who Obama is, he's always been very critical of Black men. And it suggests a large gulf between him and the average brother. But it doesn't, for the most part, a lot of brothers didn't say nothing when say anything when he was, elected, because we hoped he was going to do something that would advance Black men. But again, we didn't produce him. He didn't come out of us. He was propelled up there by interests we don't control. And we just hoped on the back end we would get something out of it. But he wasn't a product of Black America or Black men necessarily. So this idea that we have to vote for Kamala because Black women supported Obama and thus they supported the brothers and we have to turn around and support them, that's not how that went down. We had nothing to do with him getting up there. And Black women didn't support him because they were supporting the brothers. They supported him because they were supporting Michelle. And so right now they're supporting Kamala, even though, her relationship to, with her husband doesn't mirror anything that they were excited about with Obama, but we're supposed to shut up and take it. And most Black men don't care that her husband is white. So that wouldn't be the basis for why they don't vote for Kamala. It's just an interesting moment to observe how Black women have a double standard on how they regard interracial relationships. But short of that, that's not what Black men are basing their electoral plans on. You know, who they're going to vote for, not based on who she's married to. It's based on whether she's saying anything that suggests to them that there would be a reason that would benefit them. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to Black men, we're still, on the left, we have there's this whole conversation going on about breaking down, you know, the nuclear family construct, right? The idea of a traditional masculinity, you know, father and primary protector of the household. We're going to break that down because we don't need it anymore. All these ideas are antiquated. Okay. Here's the interesting thing. What nobody wants to say publicly. You get in a relationship with a woman. When the shit goes down, who does everybody look at to fix it? See, when the bills are being paid and everything's going well, we're equal partners. When the power is out, nigga, why didn't you pay it? Doesn't matter if you're out of work. You're supposed to make magic happen. Why didn't you do it? Somebody breaks in the house, let alone if somebody gets hurt. Nigga, why didn't you stop that from happening? Why did you let such and such get hurt? Why did you let me get hurt? You were supposed to fix that. You were supposed to take care of that. Doesn't matter if he had a gun. You were supposed to magically have it, even though I may not want you to have a gun in the house. Right? My point at all of this is there's a social expectation that Black men still be providers and protectors, while the rhetoric, particularly on the left, is that we don't need the traditional man narrative anymore. And what that translates to in terms of people's lived experience is that you're supposed to still provide 1950s services, but shut up about it and let her present herself as the head of household. Even though the language is that you're partners, she presents herself as head of household. And when things are going well, it is a strong and independent moment. When things are not going well, you failed at your job. And see, this is the part that people don't want to talk about. This is why they don't understand Black men. Because based on the rhetoric they've constructed, as long as we don't participate in it, we're just crazy animals that don't know how to act. But when you actually look at Black men's lived experiences and you listen to Black men who have to grapple day to day with the family, with their women, and what's expected of them, even from mothers and grandmothers on both sides of the family, when you look, and daughters for that matter, when you look at what men are expected to do, it is otherworldly. It is super heroic. And yet you're not supposed to accept credit for it. You're not supposed to be acknowledged. You need to shut up, play the background, let everybody else play the front, but you provide the floor for them to stand on. So publicly, we say you don't matter. You shouldn't exist. You're not necessary. Society is at a point where they don't need you. But privately, nigga, go pay the bills. And don't get it twisted. If she makes more than you, the idea is still, right? Her money is her money. Your money is our money. Right? This is the reality of Black male life. And truth be told, male life across race. But Black males deal with it in a whole different way, because we deal with a level of hostility and contempt that we don't publicly see other women extend to their men. But what I'm proposing here is that as long as that is the reality of Black male life, what you're going to do is push people out of the left in record time, because you want Black men to provide 1950s services, but you want them to shut up about it, and you want women to take the credit and Black men to serve in silence. And when Black men point it out, they're cavemen. They're racist, they're sexist, they're misogynist. Okay. But we know behind closed doors, when the shit jumps off, everybody turns to look at you. I mean, I can tell you that when I was married, I was in grad school. We were broke. When the power went off and I didn't have the money till next week, every once in a while I had to call and ask a family member for help. God forbid it be on her side of the family, because that's the last thing as a man you want to have to do. It took a bite out of my pride to have to do it. It didn't happen a lot, but every blue moon it happened. Because I was in grad school, I was working multiple jobs, but sometimes the check didn't come in fast enough. But when I asked for help, men in particular, not just women, would look at you and say, you need to fix this. See, when everything was going well, it was, strong and independent. Right? It's acceptable as long as things are going well. The narrative can be reframed however people are comfortable reframing it. When it comes to men standing on business and doing what's necessary, as long as you're the floor and you shut up about it, you're not even really patted on the head. You're just, tolerated, really. You're really, at the end of the day, you're just not brought hostility. But when things fall apart and there's no structure and there's no order, it's your fault. And even other men will tell you that. And I think men are reaching a point that, where if they're going to sacrifice, It needs to be acknowledged, because that sacrifice is not lightweight. That sacrifice is what puts Big Papa in his grave 2 decades, 20 years before his wife. That sacrifice is no joke. And this is where I hear people say, well, you know, that's the problem, right? Toxic masculinity. If you shared the load, it wouldn't be as stressful. Shit. Sharing of the load idea doesn't work, because you're still held to the same standard as Big Papa. You don't even get the big piece of chicken. Shit, it's worse than that. But anyway, so let's get back to these returns, right? The Black Masculinist Turns, excuse me. Right? So Tavis Smiley blew up, had a few things to say, right? But he wasn't the only one. Some of y'all may have seen this, right? I'm not going to play the video clip. This is from Roland Martin, but you find that Wendell Pierce, actor, had a few things to say in regard to Obama's statements. And he was right on point. Right? This is a tweet he put out. He says, awful message, referring to Obama, right? The party has to stop scapegoating black men. Black men aren't the problem. White men and white women are. No other group votes at 87 to 90% for Dems, but black folk, men and women. That is a false flag. Black men voted for Trump. Voting for Trump is insignificant. This accusatorial tone will make some black men stay home, which is worse. Black men are questioning our party to find out what their loyalty for decades earns them. That's good. That's healthy. Democrats have the record to stand on and should embrace the challenge. But after touring this country, specifically engaging black men, I will not let my party leaders speak condescending towards them. Right? That's Wendell Pierce. Points out how problematic the stance is, not just with Obama, but those that supported him within the party. The degradation of black men. And this is why I'm saying it's not brothers that are voting Trump that are going to really cause a problem for Democrats. It's all of the brothers that they have offended with this inhumane, stereotypical take on black male political participation. The brothers that stay home, the brothers that vote third party, the brothers that vote down ballot, right? The brothers who abstain from voting as a formal protest. Shit, the kind that abstain from voting as an informal protest. That's what you really need to keep an eye out for. And not just in one election. You need to keep an eye on it progressively. And we've seen that happening. I didn't get a chance to clip it before the show, but one of these CNN shows, I think it was, actually did a kind of breakdown of black male and female withdrawal from voting over the last 6 elections, I think it was. But black men's numbers were lower than black women's. Black men have been pulling out, but they don't get anything for their vote. And now, when there's an opportunity to listen to black men, to invest in black men, what you do is you double down on the shaming and the dismissiveness. And you're going to cause a withdrawal. And that's one of the Black Masculinist turns that I'm talking about. It's the major turn in response to both prongs of the Democrats' attack on black men, whether it's the Magic Johnson, the Sonny Halson, Obama attacks, or it's these false flag agendas that aren't based in anything black men have actually really said in any critical numbers. Either way you approach it, what you're going to do is turn off more black men. So you want to make the face of it black male Trump voters, go ahead. But the problem is bigger than that. See, the Trump voters will be outspoken and tell you they're voting for Trump. The guy who's protesting and just not participating, or who's just walked away from it all, you're often not going to see him on camera being interviewed. You're not going to see him in a panel discussion on CNN as much. They like people who participate. People that aren't even going to bother to debate with you. See, that's apathy. And apathy is worse than hate. Apathy is worse than opposition. Even in a relationship. You're in a love, ideally you want to be in a loving relationship. Your partner who's pissed off and rageful at you, that's not the worst response. The worst response you can have from a partner is when they've checked out and they just don't give a damn. That's much worse than a pissed off partner. Patrice O'Neal used to talk about it all the time. He used to talk about if you could get passion out of a woman, you could flip that passion from hatred to love. And he used to joke about approaching women, and his style was to purposely offend a woman and get her pissed off, and then he would flip it and turn her rage into to intense like. Because his idea was passion was passion. You can get her passionate, you can make it work. But if you're dealing with someone who is completely checked out and they have nothing but dead eyes for you, They can't be made passionate. They can't be instigated into anger, into rage. They just don't give a damn. That's the person you need to be concerned about. That's the person that may have checked out of the relationship. Let me see. There we go. So yeah, this is what we're looking at. The Wendell Pierce kicked it off as well, alongside Tavis Smiley. But they weren't the only ones. Now, there's a number of videos out here with Nina Turner. I'm not going to play them. I'm just going to, kind of put forth one of, let me see. Let me find it here. I'm going to put forth one of her articles. I think this is it. Yeah, here we go. Get it up here. Had it ready, but I didn't remember which one it was. So, damn it! How did I lose it? Just there we go. I think this is it. There we go. My apologies. This is Newsweek. Put this up so you can see it a little better. There you go. This is Newsweek. Obama's blaming black men for the Democratic Party's failures. Right? And this is October 11th by Nina Turner herself, former Ohio State Senator, senior fellow at the Institute on Race, Power, and Political Economy at the New School. Right? I'm not going to go through and read the whole article. I do think it's a good read and it's interesting. Now, I got to say, just to be clear, I like Nina Turner. I do. She's bold enough to say things that a lot of people won't. She attended the ADOS conference a week or so ago, and had some things to say about supporting black men. She was talking about how she didn't want to let the Democratic Party turn black women against black men. I like what she has to say. She was the one, that made the statement not long ago. She's been drumming this consistently over the last few months. The Democratic Party has emasculated black men and Latino men. She said more than likely Latino men as well. Right? Here's the thing. I still think, for the most part, she's like an enlightened gynocrat. Right? She's not completely out of this kind of framework altogether. I think she just really had a moment, and she said so. She said she sat down and talked with black men and found out that they don't see themselves in the Democratic Party. What makes her different? She was willing to sit down and listen to black men and champion what she learned from them to explain why things are not going the way people may want them to go. She championed black men. How many people are willing to do that? How many black women within the Democratic Party are willing to do that? Not very many. Yeah. TIQS says Nina challenged Lee and Abby on CNN recently. Black Guru says, I like Nina, but it offends me that a black woman must be made the public face of defending the dignity and electoral rights of black men. You know what, though? What I'll say about that is, that's making her the face of it is a media job. Now, if this happened 30 years ago, it may have been a stronger case. But here's the thing. In this era, how many brothers do we have on social media who have their own shows, who are producing their own blogs, writing their own articles? How many brothers are completely ready to stand up and point out what we've been talking about in these spaces for years? How many get a chance to? We're here. It's not like black men are quiet, especially now. With all the resources we have, with all the technology that's available, black men have been quite vocal. It's the media industry that's made it a point to ignore black men. And they're willing to let Nina Turner speak for us because she's more palatable than the brothers in this space who would speak full-throatedly to the problems that black men have. They don't want to sit down with us. They don't want to sit down with brothers who are not part of the network altogether. See, I'm an independent. I don't give a good goddamn. You might, if you want to sit me down with Republicans or Democrats, I'm indifferent to the parties. I'm concerned about what policies will benefit black males. Now, I understand the political engine. It may not be able to get into law with the language of black males. My only relevant question is, when it reaches the ground, who does it touch? And if black men don't benefit, then I don't give a damn about what policy you're pushing. I need to see tangible numbers about how what we're proposing or what you're proposing to do for black males will actually impact them positively. Shout out to Tiberius. He says, some support. Dr. T, appreciate the 10. He says, I think all those disillusioned young white men are going to show the Dems how not close this race was. Let's see the Dems speak down to them. They won't. We're already being set up to take the fall. Yeah, Booker T says Nina Turner's from the Bernie Sanders camp. Yeah. And they fractured the party by, the Democrats fractured the party by how they handled Bernie. Because there was a lot of people that were invested in Bernie, and the way that whole thing went down, they shot themselves in the foot. You got a lot of people that left, a bad taste in their mouth, even if they stayed in the Democratic Party. So it's not surprising she comes out of that camp. But she says in both 2008, 2012, I was proud to be an Ohio delegate for President Barack Obama. So I was shocked to hear what former president had to say while speaking on black men during a surprise visit to Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign field office in Pittsburgh. His words made my jaw hit the floor. In fact, they made my blood boil. Now, this is what I like. This is another thing I like about Turner. She not only said this full-throatedly on multiple shows that you can watch in video. And I'm right now, I'm not going to go dig that video up because I keep getting hit with copyright stuff. But I like that she put it in writing. Because at the end of the day, sometimes there's so much video available that we lose track of it. Over time, you forget where it is. There's so many different ones, whatnot. But for me, I'm a bibliophile. I'm an academic. Having things in writing. Now, don't get me wrong. These websites will erase articles in a second. So you got to keep anything you find. But the fact that you can find it in writing makes it easier to cite in other papers, presentations, so on and so forth. So I particularly appreciate that she did it in multiple mediums. She didn't just get on a show and do an interview. She also did it in writing on Newsweek, right? I appreciate that. So like I said, I like her. I do. And I appreciate what she's willing to say and do to put forth, what black men have been saying. I don't like the fact that she had to. I don't like the fact that they ignore black men enough to where they had to wait for an outspoken black woman to do it for us. Why? Because we're children that need to be spoken for, right? Can't speak for ourselves. Too dangerous. May say the wrong thing, cost them some money, speak to the wrong black men, make the wrong promises. They don't want to do that. They gotta make sure they bring in an insider who understands the rules, even though she's kind of a rebel. They're willing to work with her. I'm not going to go over what Obama said. We kind of heard about that, but it says it was infuriating to hear these remarks. No other group of voters is talked to like this, as if they are children. What did I just say? But it's not just the paternalistic tone that had me enraged. It's the underlying message in his words that black men are misogynistic and can't bring themselves to vote for a woman. This vilification of our men is out of line. For starters, it's false. Black men are socialized in the same patriarchal society that every other American man is socializing. And that's why I say she's an enlightened gynocrat, because she will turn to this patriarchal language in a minute. But here's the thing that I don't think a lot of people recognize about black men. Black men are also socialized in a female environment at home and at school. Think about it. For the average black male who grows up in a single parent household under a mother, right? You've been taught from birth to follow what a woman tells you to do. And then when you go to school, where at least in elementary school, the teachers being female are over 90%. And if you stay in school, especially all the way through a doctorate, what you'll find for the most part, depending on your industry, is a majority of female teachers. So what I'm saying is you go from birth all the way through grad school following a female lead. Black men have been following women's lead in families and for decades. This is not new, for generations. So this idea, this kind of flip that you even hear Nina Turner going into about black men being socialized in the same patriarchal network. Well, hold on. You may call the larger society patriarchal, but we refer to the black community as gynocratic. It's a gynocracy. Black men have learned to be supportive and to follow within the context of a gynocracy. I would argue that black men know more about emotional labor as far as men providing emotional labor to women than any other demographic of men. We've been raised to support women in decision-making positions from birth. Now, that's not to say every black man follows it, but I am saying we've been socialized into it. And that's the language that's missing. So even when a Nina Turner tries to speak for us, she'll still turn to a feminist rationale to explain black men. as fundamentally still part of a patriarchal network, but she won't acknowledge the fact that Black men are actually socialized in a gynarchy. And that's a very different position than any other demographic of men. Shout out to Beretta, appreciate that support. All right. It's a different position. Anyway, socialized in, yet when Secretary Hillary Clinton ran for president in 2016, 81% of Black men voted for her, while only 32% of white men did the same. As for Black men allegedly being so reticent to vote for President Harris, her lowest numbers are with Black men under 50 years old, 72% of whom support Harris. If white men supported Harris at 72%, they'd be held up as an example of how men can support women. So why are Democratic Party leaders like former President Obama vilifying Black men? It's simple. The Democratic Party is setting up Black men up to take the fall in case Vice President Harris fails to defeat former President Trump in November. It's that simple. Absolutely. And it is an outrage that they are trying to pin this on Black men. If Harris loses, it will not be on Black men or any other group of voters. The fault will lie squarely with the candidate and the party she represents. It is her job to appeal to Black men, not to lecture those who aren't feeling it. Exactly. Absolutely. She is absolutely right in that context. They're already, but like I said, it's a double whammy, right? Black men are being set up to take the fall. If she wins, you're not going to hear any applause going to Black men, no matter what percentage we vote. You'll hear applause for Black women. You'll hear applause from women, for women altogether, right? It's going to be a lot of, we did it. Women did it. So if it fails, it's Black men's fault. It's Jermaine's fault. If it succeeds, strong, independent women made it happen, particularly strong, independent Black women. This only works one way as far as Black men are concerned. And it doesn't matter how well we do, how much we support, we don't even get a pat on the head, which is why so many brothers are retreating and withdrawing, because it's not enough. It's not enough. And Obama may have turned all of this on its head by making the statements he made publicly. Because now we're starting to see all kinds of articles coming out, blasting, right? Blasting him. And these aren't articles that Black men are necessarily producing. There's a number of them, right? But you know, where you have established comments coming out about Obama's faux pas and attacking Black men. Now, Black men, and this is what I'm proud to see, are responding in record numbers, especially in video, especially in social media. Scores of Black men are outspoken. Now, this is one of the reasons that I haven't been as productive in terms of producing videos on my channel, because when I started this channel, the desire I had was to create a vocabulary to help Black men articulate themselves and fight back against misandry, most particularly anti-Black misandry, from any corner it hails from, whether it's from conservative whites or whether it's from the woman laying next to you in your bed. I wanted to help Black men by creating a language so they had terminology that they could use to challenge the bullshit that's being thrown at them. Last year, I started to notice that I saw more Black men speaking up for themselves than I've seen in my entire life. There were at least 3 incidents where I shed a tear. Somebody threw me some stuff on Twitter and I was like, all right, there's another battle I gotta go fight. All right. So I, get up on Twitter, getting ready to go, argue with these crazy feminists. And I started to see, and this is the thing, it wasn't coming from academics. It wasn't coming always from people that were well-read. I just saw more and more brothers from every corner and every level that just stopped taking this shit. More than I'd ever seen. They started speaking up. And even if they didn't know everything, they still would say what they knew. And then somebody else would jump in and add something else. And for the first time, instead of jumping in and fighting that battle, I just sat back and looked and I said, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. The Black Masculinist Turn is starting to flow like a wave. And I started seeing Black men fighting back in comment sections, in social media, from Facebook to Twitter to even Instagram. I'm starting to see more brothers pushing back, and not just against, female feminists. I'm seeing them push back against The Umar Johnsons, when he says some misandrous shit about black men, I'm starting to see them push back against the Derek Jacksons and the mainline feminists, the CNNs and the television feminists on The View and every other channel that have grown quite comfortable, even ESPN, quite comfortable with maligning black men. I started to see more black men speak up than ever before. And I said, wow. It's done. It's happening. I didn't expect it to, but it did. And now I'm prouder of my brothers than I have ever been in my life, man. I've never seen this many black men stand up at the same time and say, we ain't taking this shit no more. Shout out to Black Guru. He says, in all facets of life, there's no group of people that feature as much male support for female leadership as black American men, whether it's in business, school, clergy, government, media, and charity. Yeah, absolutely. But this is what I'm saying, though. At the same time, I'm seeing more brothers standing up. And they're starting to push back. And they're starting to not give a fuck if people like it. And that is what I've been waiting on. Now, I ain't going nowhere. I just kind of had to find my footing in the midst of all of this because I didn't expect it to happen that fast. You know what I mean? Like, I've been up here since 2020. I didn't know. I didn't really have a time frame on it, but I just didn't know when it might happen and all of that good stuff. But when it did, it blew me away. And I started to see people quoting the space coming from all over the world. They quoting terms and concepts that only come from this space. And it didn't matter if it was mine or anybody else's. It just let me know how many people were actually paying attention. I got brothers from South Africa to China, from Britain to Australia, from Mexico to New York, writing me to tell me what they're doing in their own lives. And that's on top of what I'm seeing in social media. Shout out to Wrench Turner. Appreciate that. He says, Obama proved that from the Keishas to highest office in the land, black men are an afterthought until they decide we aren't. Put yourselves first. Yeah. It's one thing to see a statement like that on my show. But when I see a statement like that on other people's show or in the comment section of a place I never expected to see it from, you have no idea what it does to me. I'm moved in a way I never thought would really happen. Shout out to black males. I appreciate that. I tried to contribute. I just threw my little, as BGS always says, I threw my shekels in the pot with everybody else. But I guess there's a point where you throw enough shekels in there and you get a wave. You get one of those Scrooge McDuck waves of shekels. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I can tell you it moved me like I've never been moved. Main man says, Dr. T had the on your left moment on Twitter. Yeah, man. Yeah. That was a perfect analogy. Yes. I was Captain America with a broken shield in that piece, but I'm still going to war. And the next thing I knew, brothers were coming out of everywhere. I was just like, what? And I'm starting to see it happen. And so the whole crux of today's show, Obama thought he was going to pile on, as with Sonny Holson and even Magic Johnson. They thought they were going to pile on black men like it always happened. And that we would take it the way we've always taken it. But what happened? You saw a blowback. You see a blowback happening right now we have never seen operate like this. Shout out to Passport OG. I mean, with that Dr. Neil, BMI is a force to be reckoned with. We are seeing that force. Shout out to Compassionate and Callous. Again, credit to him doing a beautiful job. If you don't know what I'm talking about, download the PDF version of the Black Male Political Agenda. We're going to get to that in a second. He did some beautiful work that needs to be shouted out. Appreciate that, brother. Doing some powerful stuff. I think I'll pull up the other version of it when we get there. Here we go. Okay. So anyway, so I started to see a response I never saw, and it moved me. And I'm trying to figure out how I want to participate now that the service I've been providing, I don't think it needs to be provided in the way I have been. So now I just have to figure out where I can be most useful. But right now, I just had a moment of pause where I just had to take my hat off and salute the brothers like, yo, y'all, man, I don't feel like I got to go in rooms and fight by myself anymore. I'm seeing brothers come out, and I'm actually even hearing it from non-black folk. Now, there have been a couple of black women. I've ran into some Nina Turners that surprised me, but I've also seen it coming from some non-black folk who have been listening. And I'm like, okay, now, hopefully this is another era, and I don't know what the nature of it is yet, but we're gonna keep pressing. But it's still important to notice. Dead Set says, I'm interested in seeing the international man's response to what's going on, because we know that other men are watching. Yep. It's actually happening. Jail Block says, have you ever thought of collaborating with Tariq Nasheed? Not particularly, but I was on his last documentary. Well, I don't know, not his last. Back, I was on the Buck Breaking documentary. He had me on there, so I met him and participated in that. But no, I hadn't thought of anything, formal as far as that's concerned. But if you haven't checked that out, go check out the Buck Breaking documentary. You'll see me on there. Anyway, so yeah, anyway, I wasn't expecting to go that route, but I just had to share that with you. That's why you haven't seen a lot of me. I'm just trying to find my footing, because this major shift started to finally happen. It's the same thing that happened when you do your doctorate. You go to school for years, and they don't tell you how long it's going to take. The kind of doctoral programs I was in, you got to write a dissertation, and some people that takes 6 months, some people that takes 10 years. So the coursework, as long as you take the full load, only lasts a certain amount of time. But after that, they can't tell you. So you go into it and you have this daunting job you need to do, and you don't know how long it's going to take. So you don't think about it in terms of when I'm done. You just keep putting one foot in front of the next until one day somebody says, you're done, right? You finished. You're walking the stage, right? Graduate. That's kind of how it happens. That's how this moment felt with black men. I didn't get into this saying, okay, I'm going to be on YouTube for 3-4 years, and then I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to do this. I didn't, I just tried to make shows, tried to say something. And then the next thing I know, instead of somebody saying, you're done, right? It was just, these brothers ain't taking no shit, right? I'm like, what? I'm seeing people just, hitting it, man. And the funniest part, I shouldn't say funny, I think it's really the most brilliant part. I'm seeing brothers who are not well trained, who haven't even really been in these spaces soaking it all in, but they've heard enough. They've heard enough to use, and they've been hitting people with it, like raising questions that we didn't know how to raise years ago, and it's happening. So that said, I'm excited about it. Right? But this stuff is starting to blow up in the Democrats' faces. This is the Black Masculinist Turn, right? Where we're seeing brothers outspoken, and they're talking shit right back to Barack in ways I know he didn't see coming. And they are in the face of anybody that has something to say to malign black men, and I am happy to see that. Actually happy to see it. And it's starting to happen. But you know how we got to do this. We got to talk about the main reason that Kamala's proposal was offensive in terms of her agenda, at least offensive to me, because she didn't have to recreate some shit. She didn't have to. We already have it. 18-point black male political agenda. 40,000 plus members of the Brotherhood of YouTube's The Onyx Report. Again, you know what? I said I was going to go through the PDF version. I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you what Compassionate and Callous did. We had a few phone conversations going through it, and I got nothing but respect and appreciation for the brother. He did a fabulous job. So check this out. And again, you can download this free on the website. But there you go. Right. That's the table of contents. All of these links are clickable, right? So you can go right to them. So if you want to see Title 7 reform, click right on it. Takes you down to Title 7 reform. Right? Page 32. This is a 38-page document, right? Where you can read through all of these. Go through any one of them you want to, right? Criminal law reform, go right to it. And you see all the statistics that you'll find on this. Everything here is on the website. So it's all the same information, but the way he put it together is just so well done. It's attractive to the eye. Information is still as relevant as usual. The data is there. The citations are still there. But if you don't, if you want something you can read when you're offline, you want to be able to go through it. there it is. All the same information, all at your fingertips. So again, shout out to Compassionate and Callous. Excellent work, in my humble opinion, on this, right? This is what some of you brothers asked for. You wanted a PDF version. You wanted a printable version, something you can carry with you, something you can send to other people. There you go. And I didn't ask him to do this. To my knowledge, nobody asked him to do this. He just decided to. One day he just started sending me shit. Like, this is what it's looking like. And I was just like, all right. See, but again, yet and again, it was another moment where I was just like, I didn't have to ask anybody to do this. He just did it. No, it's not. Just leave it there. Right? He just did it. This is what I appreciate. But again, just to make sure I'm covering the basics, I want you to be able to at least see, and again, what the table of contents are. Here we go. Right? That's it. That's the short list. The 18-point black male political agenda begins with family court reform, goes into education, affirmative action for black men, targeted homelessness programs. This is the same thing we've been talking about for 4 years. Brothers have just been building on it, and it's not done. We got plenty more to add as long as you have ideas, and especially if those ideas are pulled from your lived experience. This is what we need to expand it. So y'all make sure you give Compassionate and Callous some love. I know he was in the comment section a minute ago. Don't leave here without shouting him out. The brother did some fabulous work. You know what I'm saying? But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, man. When brothers take it upon themselves to do something because it will benefit other black men. He didn't have to be asked. He didn't have to be cajoled. He didn't have to be argued with. He didn't have to be shamed into it. He did it because he wanted to help. What are you going to do? Now, again, the only reason I'm doing today's show is because I don't like how comfortable people are with maligning black men and suggesting that they shouldn't have the freedom to make the choices they want to make for their own reasons. I'm stepping up to defend black men. I will always do that on one level or another, no matter what I'm doing, because this is my life's work. But what will you do to contribute to that mission? What will you do to improve the quality of your collective lives by stepping in and saying, we aren't going to take this shit anymore? What front are you going to fight on? It's up to you to choose it. I just hope you choose to do it, because there's a lot more work that needs to be done. But at the end of the day, seeing black men not taking any more shit, not just playing this servile role that other people have outlined for us, it moves my heart. It really does. And there's nothing like seeing it. Nothing like seeing it. So that said, shout out to all of you that came through tonight. I really appreciate it. Just wanted to drop a word. I most particularly want to hear in the comments your response to the things I'm saying. What else do you have to add to it? What do you think we should be doing? What other ideas do you have? How else do you think we should respond to this vehement attack by the Democratic Party? Right? The party we've been giving our votes to for decades, because we were told to. Now, when you see how they really think about you, what do we do about that? At the end of the day, any group that wants your votes should earn it. Any group. And when it comes to politics, strange bedfellows goes without saying. I am not opposed to strange bedfellows in the sense that, if voting has to go a different way to achieve a particular end, I don't lose any sleep about it. I really don't. If the party we're most affiliated with is not going to honor the legacy of what black men have contributed, and another party will, then they have my attention. And I'm not necessarily just limiting that to Republicans. I told you I'm an independent. I don't give a damn. Whomever is willing to seriously listen to black men and put some things into action has my attention, and more than likely my vote. What is it going to take for you? What is it going to actually take to earn your vote? Can you articulate it? What are your list of issues that would turn your vote from one direction to another? You see, this is one of the mistakes the Democrats are making. They're mistaking the fact that that our votes are a given. Now, that has been the case, but it's changing. And they're not necessarily concerned about how people vote today. They're concerned about how they're going to continue to vote because they see it changing. They see it dropping. At the end of the day, you have to answer the question first. What's it going to take to earn your votes? And any party with the will to attract black male voters can get it. You know what I'm saying? We're like somebody that just got out of a divorce. Oh, you can get it. You get somebody out of a divorce in the right window, you can get it. Question is, who wants it? Right now, the black vote has still come out of a legacy of the civil rights movement. And for the most part, we don't have large numbers. We don't have, economics in our favor. It's not like we're able to bring to bear a crazy amount of wealth that will, humble other groups. That's not what we have. What people tend to barter over the black vote for is the moral high ground, right? The legacy, the statement that whomever has the black vote is on the right side of humanity and is doing right in terms of human justice to human beings who have lived a life of difficulty and strain. Right now, Black America, and I'm not saying this is the only thing, but this is a significant part of it. The legacy of struggle that we come out of comes with symbolic value that any demographic that wants to be able to claim that they operate on behalf of the people value. And that's what the Democrats have been touting. And don't get it twisted. When the Republicans get black votes, they like to be able to claim they've gotten black votes. For the most part, each major party will tout black people as long as they can get black votes. We've just never really pushed them and demanded something for our vote, not to the extent that we need to. And this is what I want to see us do. Shout out to Interlight Radio. Brothers are evolving and maturing beyond the two-party political system and the stratified Western world class system. It's a new day. Absolutely. That's what I think we're watching. When I talk about the Black Masculinist Turn, that's one of the things that's happening. I think there's a major change afoot, and black men are leading that. And we've always been canaries in the mine, but it's reaching another level. So that said, I appreciate y'all coming through tonight. Appreciate you guys participating. I want to hear more about your thoughts. Let me know what I missed. Let me know what else needs to be talked about. Let me know what else we need to do in this sense, because there's a major opportunity here, and I want to take advantage of it. So that being said, y'all have a good night. I'll be back. I will see y'all soon. Peace. I am here to tell you, brothers, we are not criminals by birth, perennial rapists, incapable intellects, man-children, sperm donors, child support wellsprings, success objects, walking phalluses, ATM machines, lottery tickets, unintelligent henchmen, valueless assassins, pro bono mercenaries, unpaid bodyguards, interchangeable stepfathers, child discipline proxies, unpaid repairmen, workhorses, emotional tampons, or any other socially accepted dehumanizing stereotype. We are thinkers, inventors, innovators, leaders, fathers, and men. Embrace your humanity, know your worth, and extend your time, attention, and resources only to those who genuinely respect you. And remember, your worth is not defined by meeting other people's narcissistic and selfish and unrealistic needs. You define your worth. Peace.